a Development and Service Committee meeting for March the 22nd, 2002.
Recording in progress.
Malinowski. Here. McBride. Livingston. Pugh.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
Horatio.
Here.
Newton.
Here.
English.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, my name was called, but I am not on this committee, so don't count me in the quorum. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Approval of minutes from February the 2nd, 2022.
Move to approve. Second.
Madam Clerk, can you call for the vote, please?
Pugh.
Yes.
Horatio.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 3 on the agenda, adoption of the agenda for the March 22nd, 2002 meeting. 2022, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Second.
Pugh.
Yes.
Horatio.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, we move to item number 4 on the agenda. We have 2 items for action. Item 4A, Department of Public Works FY21 Annual Road Report. Can I get a motion?
Mr. Chair, are we just moving to receive the report? Just clarification. There's no action needed?
This is our action, items for action.
So is the I guess I'm asking, is the action that we just received the report?
Yes.
Okay, move to receive the report.
Second.
Pugh.
Yes.
Horatio.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right.
Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, we didn't have any discussion. And I guess I just want to thank staff for preparing that report for us. It was helpful to have a retrospective into our roads. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Comments? Item 4B, Department of Public Works FY22 Comprehensive Transportation Improvement Plan. Can I get a motion for us to receive?
Second.
Pugh.
Discussion.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Discussion.
Thank you. I would love if staff could just take a minute or two to talk about the Ctip process and give us a chance to ask any questions.
Public Works.
Good evening, Sharani Fuller, Assistant County Engineer for Richland County Public Works. I can briefly discuss it, or if you just want me to accept questions, that's fine.
I just, given where we are, I think it would be great if you just gave a brief overview, and I'm comfortable with brief. And then specifically, I can go ahead and tell you one of my questions in advance, which will be, what is the process that we are using to determine which projects we want to do moving forward, particularly because as I look at this report, there are some items here that aren't prospective, but they're retrospective and that they've already been done. So for me, I just want to understand the process.
Okay. So this is the second year that Public Works has created the Ctip. The plan is to update the report yearly so that it lists off the capital projects that are designated for either design or construction during that fiscal year. This report does show both the projects being done by Public Works and also the Department of Transportation. However, only where the Department of Transportation is working on county maintained roads is that reflected in this report. It's fairly high technical. It gives you some details, the function of each department and also on the goals. and how proposed funding is allocated based on project type and the source.
Get a little bit more volume. I think folks are having trouble hearing.
Apologize. To answer your question about how projects are chosen, the projects for this report reflects fiscal year 22. So the projects were chosen using an old pavement management study from 2015. We did a new study at the end of 2021. So the next report that you see that will be for FY23 will be using that data. With the pavement management study, what we do is pavement condition indexes are determined for each road, and you get a range from 0 to 100. So that's how we look and are able to compare every road. Now, when we go to choosing the roads, obviously we use the ordinance and we go by the pro rata and then by funding, then by the PCIs. We are planning in May, hopefully during Public Weeks Works, to put together a work session so that we can go into more detail on the new study that we have. We're getting a final report, hopefully the end of this month, probably the beginning of next month, with some better information and graphics that will help to show what the current conditions of all the roads in the county are.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are reflective, and I guess it's just are reflective of those that have been descoped or rescoped as well.
Yes, ma'am. Some of what you'll see is rollover. So it's some projects, like you said, it seems maybe a little repetitive in a way. You may have seen them before, but because they didn't get to construction, you're seeing them again. They're actually planned to be constructed and completed by June 30th.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
More questions? Recognize Mr. Maskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a new state budget that was very recently approved, and part of that budget I was reading talks about giving more funds to this particular program, the Ctip. Have we heard anything as to whether or not we're going to, or I should say, how much more we're going to be getting from the state in that?
CTC did provide us a little bit of information that's in here on a non-recurring one-time allocation of funding. Let's see if I can find the table. Under Section 5 resources, the very last item listed there is C Fund.
Hold on, what page would that be in the agenda?
I believe 46 of 61. It's a little bit difficult to read.
Five resources. But when were these figures made up? The information I got just came within this past week.
Okay, these figures were provided by CTC in November of last year.
Yeah, that
so
wouldn't
if there's
include this. I'll get that information and provide it to Director Maloney, what I heard was taking place. So
yes, sir.
maybe you can inquire and find out, hopefully, how much more money we're getting. Following that, in your section 3 for the system data, the fourth one down says road mileage paved dash incoming right of way in progress. Could you explain that, please?
Yes, sir. Those were road miles that we know we're going to be receiving from new development. So they had not yet been completely deeded over to us, but they were in our system. Like we were aware of them.
Okay. Then in section 4, down on the 1, 2, I guess the 4, the bullet sign maintenance. And it says that throughout unincorporated county and IGA municipalities that we install, maintain, and repair the street name signs for all public and private roads and streets. Maybe there's a different rule or law pertaining to this, but previously we had been told we cannot use public funds for private roads when it comes to maintenance except a one-time emergency use. So why would we use public funds to maintain private road signs?
I believe my only knowledge of the reason we would do that is for emergency services so that ambulances are able to access citizens.
I'd like to get some definite clarification on that because that's not the way it's listed here. It says installation, maintenance, and repair. I don't think we're going to have emergency on every one of those areas.
Yes, sir. That's just the street name signs, and we do provide that for wayfinding for as AC Fuller did indicate for wayfinding for emergency vehicles, and we've just made those types of repairs in the last week where.
Okay, so we're doing it for the benefit of the emergency vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then if you'd go further on the next page under your engineering, third bullet where it talks about signal maintenance, it says that we maintain an inventory of traffic signals and flashing school zone lights. Are those only on Richland County roads or are they on state highways as well?
They are only on county main.
Only on county roads? And the traffic calming, the one immediately below it, it says that Public Works installs speed humps on paved roads within our management system and SCDOT maintain public roads. Do we get reimbursement from DOT for this?
No, sir.
Is there a reason we don't? We're saving them money and we're spending county tax money for state purposes.
SCDOT simply will not put those in. That's.
I said DOT won't put them in.
Right, sir.
I just don't get why we would bear the cost then. Because that doesn't that, and maybe the attorney can answer that, does that not make us, give us some type of potential liability once we put calming devices and speed humps on a public road?
Well, I think the potential issue is that if DOT refuses to do it and our department thinks that it's necessary for that area, if we don't put them in, that could do the same thing.
Right. I'll accept that one. Thank you, Attorney Wright. And I move on to, since this is our chance to get these things answered and we're still early in the meeting here. We already discussed the master equipment operator. I'm on page 4, under section 6, down under EGR. Second bullet, it says the goal is to, the right-of-way administrator has acquired approximately 38 of the 97 abandoned roads. The goal is to acquire the remaining 59 roads in fiscal year 22. My question is, at what cost are we going to acquire them and where is that money coming from? And also, can we be provided a list of those roads?
Yes, you can be provided a list. As far as I know, when we're saying acquisition, we're saying we're going to be deeded the roads. To date, I do not believe we paid for any of the right-of-way on those roads. Where most of them are either privately owned or owned through a foreclosure. And in many situations, the owner is more than willing to turn them over to us.
Okay, but this isn't, I'm not referring to the right-of-way. Granted, it says the right-of-way administrator, but then it follows up by saying has acquired approximately 38 total abandoned roads.
Mm-hmm.
We're acquiring the road.
Yes, the right-of-way, the right to own the road. We're not intentionally doing maintenance as soon as we own them. Our understanding is that we take in the roads and we bring them into our system, we evaluate them, and then we make them part of the system so they become part of the plan, like the long-term plan.
Put them in our system. The rule was that they had to meet our qualifications to be part of the county road system.
Mike, can you?
And if we're taking them over and they're not meeting our standards, there's got to be something done first.
In the past, in those roads, there were a number of reasons they didn't come in, and some of those may have been certain punch list items not complete, but in general, we said we reviewed the roads and they're not putting us in a situation where we're taking unsafe roads in that weren't designed and built to county standards. But there, some of those have been sitting for 30 years. And so there is maintenance. But as AC Fuller had indicated, we would just put those into the routine of our operations of routine maintenance with other projects. But I think last year I came in with a couple of those in the capital plan, and council members noted that I shouldn't have done that. We'll wait till, don't come right in with capital on those roads that you just brought in. So we revised the list and corrected that and used that input from council going forward.
Okay, so I'd still like to see the cost of doing this with these other roads that we're trying to bring in, where the money is going to be coming from, and a list of how they rank in being repaired or brought into the system, what kind of repair is needed for them. Because as I believe Director Maloney may already be aware, there are other roads that were being requested to take over because developers have backed out on these things. I don't know how many more, but it's going to create another problem. Maybe not a problem. It's going to create a situation whereby the overall county taxpayers are paying for work that should have been done by developers. And I don't think that's fair. I think we need to possibly get with legal and find out why these roads have been abandoned. Is there any recourse to go after these developers? And it goes way back to when I commented about creating some type of a list that would state, you cannot do any additional projects in Richland County. We won't approve them until you go back and fix the projects you started. And I know somebody's going to say, well, that was an ABC company run by Michael Maloney. Now it's an XYZ company run by Michael Maloney. So it's a different company. No, if the same person is behind, no matter what company, they're the one that needs to be held responsible. Thank you. I'm done, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. You sure?
I have a request, sir.
Yes, sir,
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
On those items that Mr. Malinowski just asked for, I'd like to make that a section in our council work session where we'd have a little more time to prepare for that than the upcoming council meeting.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. As we move to item number 5 on the agenda, items requiring no action. Move to, excuse me.
Take the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Call for a vote, please. What's the receive?
Yes.
Visit plan?
Hugh,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, now we can move to item 5. Items pending, no action required. Move to direct the staff to evaluate current zoning laws that permit zoning designations for large residential developments to remain in perpetuity and present options to reevaluate and or rezone these properties if they are not developed within 7 years. Recommendations should include processes to ensure the zoning and the comprehensive plan remains consistent with the lived character of the community. Ms. Newton, as the maker of the motion, do you have anything for us?
Mr. Chair, based on our conversation last time, this is something that staff is working on, creating a process whereby they would adjust the process that we use in our comprehensive planning to bring us a different set of information. So my understanding is that that's still in progress and that we don't need to take any action at this time.
Thank you. Does staff have anything?
We do not. Thank you very much.
Item 5B, move to invite the Wriston County Conservation Commission to present the Lower Richland Tours Plan to council. This item has been held in committee at the December 16, 2021 Development and Services Committee meeting, pending council's workshop regarding the subject matter. The RCCC hosted an open house on February the 15th, 2022. Staff awaits further direction from the maker of the motion per email correspondence on March the 3rd. Ms. Newton, Ms. English?
Yes, and I apologize. I meant to go back through my emails and see that. So is what you need from us simply a date to have the work session?
Mr. Chairman, if I may be recognized.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Eric Jensen, Assistant County Administrator for the record. Ms. Newton, we are asking if the workshop was sufficient for your needs or if you would like additional time with the committee or what other additional information you would like before we bring the item back to council.
Thank you. In that case, what I think I may do is also circulate that question to my colleagues, because while I and others have requested a work session, the real purpose is for us to have a fruitful conversation as council. And so I don't think that I can answer that question alone. So, and in fact, what I will ask is instead, will you take that question and if you could email the full body, and then we can do it that way? See how I just took an action item off my list? I almost took it and then I gave it right back. I'm learning.
Thank you, Councilmember Newton. Yes, I can accomplish that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to just recognize a point of what we're discussing with the Lower Richland Tourism Plan. This morning, when attending the committee meeting for the Columbia Metropolitan Convention Center and Experience, Columbia Experience SC, whatever we call it, they actually put in the Southern Living magazine an advertisement for the Congaree River area. So there is an actual, and I took a snapshot of it because I knew that some of my colleagues would like to see it, but almost center of the magazine, of a nationally circulated magazine, you will find an advertisement asking people, telling people to come to Lower Richland. And I thought it was great. It definitely connected to the conversations that we've been having about this tourism plan. And I think that the work has already started. So kudos to Mr. Bill Ellen and his team for taking the steps to really get the word out about Lower Richland. Thank you.
Question? We will move to item 5C. I move to direct the county's attorney to work with the county administrator to research and draft an absentee landlord ordinance. The ordinance should provide potential remedies for individuals who violate the county's ordinance and provide via supplementary documentation a comprehensive review of the legal impacts associated with adopting such ordinances. Staff continues its efforts relative to this matter. Can we get an update from staff on where we are with the absentee ordinance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may be recognized.
Yes, sir.
ACA Jensen for the record. First of all, thank you, Ms. Teresa, for pushing this and for being behind it. Much appreciated. Very briefly, staff has created an internal team. We have met virtually. We have discussed the item. Last month, we put together a series of comments on 3 different questions regarding the matter. So I have input from the various applicable departments on this issue. At this point, we are now starting to formulate policy related to this. Our counselor, my gosh, Elizabeth, I can't think of her last name. Thank you, Counselor McLean has taken this on, and she is writing an internal legal opinion on what we can and cannot do. And so that is where we are. We're about a month behind where we were originally scheduled. I apologize for that. There were a couple of things that came up that just took my time, but we're hopefully we'll have something before you or to a committee at least by June of this year.
Definitely looking forward to that because this is a huge problem, especially in my district and Councilwoman Teresio's district. Mr. Livingston, you recognize?
Yes, Mr. Jensen, with the landlord situation, do we know who the landlords are in Richland County? How are we going to identify them, that kind of thing?
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Yes, that is part of the problem. That is one of the prongs that we are looking at. We're looking at a 3-prong. One is identifying simply who are the persons involved, the parties. because typically when we go out and to investigate or to site, we have somebody who is there physically at the property usually. We have a property management firm, and we also have the property owner. And usually we can find somebody on the site, but then identifying who the property management firm is, identifying who the owner is sometimes a lengthy process. And so one of the legs or prongs that we are looking at is establishing an internal database of who all of the owners, property managers, and tenants are at any given time. The tenant one is a little harder because it's so fluid, but property owner and property manager is something that we should be able to obtain on a periodic basis, whether it's through a business license process or simply just a registration process. So we're working, the assessor is part of our team, the sheriff's office is part of our team, the business license office is part of our team. So we're coming up with a strategy right now how to do exactly that.
If you're in the city of Columbia, you will know because you have to have a permit, but we don't have permits. And that's why I'm trying to figure out how do we really identify those landlords and who they are and where they are and so forth.
Yes, sir. So we will come up, one of the strategies that we will come up with is how to do that.
Thank you, sir. Let's move to item 5D. I move to have staff amend section 26-186 of the Land Development Code by amending the formula used in determining the total number of units allowed in utilizing the density-based and the density bonus design standard by subtracting the the constraint of open space areas acreage from the total site acreage prior to calculating. In addition, all lots must conform to the DHEC minimum required size, so no bonus allowed. The lot spaces to be less than the DHEC minimum. Staff wrote prior to June 30th, staff would draft a proposed language to present to the Planning Commission and the Development and Service Committee for consideration. Can staff give us an update on where we are with that draft?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I may, I will pass it to the Deputy Director of the department to address, Mr. Gionard Price.
All right, you recognize.
Thank you. Yeah, we're still working on that. I believe we've had some conversations with Councilman Malinowski, I think particularly about that second sentence about the DHEC requirements, but we are actually looking at that as we are a number of amendments to the current land or to the newly approved land development code from November to address Councilman Malinowski's recommendations.
Thank you, sir.
I do have a question, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
ma'am. You recognize.
So, Mr. Price, so I guess we're gonna kind of in a holding pattern right now until we finalize things with the land development code rewrite, or are they working in tandem? Oh, because I know it says prior to June the 30th. So I'm just trying to get a gauge for when we can anticipate a final document.
So what you have before you is what will be a text amendment. And so one of the things that staff will be bringing to county council is more of a schedule. So while we are still as you know, we adopted the text for the land development code. And right now we work on the remapping, essentially the zoning for Richland County. But as we're doing the remapping portion, we're also going to kind of break down proposed text amendments to bring to county council. And we're going to break them down to the one, like this, for example, phase one would be items that really need to be addressed that maybe due to an oversight could kind of cause some issues when it comes to whether it be development or some unintended activity as a result of the language that's currently in there, more of a cleanup. The second part will be to address things such as what Councilman Malinowski is asking for, some changes to the code that that I think council, maybe even the planning commission and also staff, you know, upon review feels that needs to be addressed prior to us in the full land development code and any developments that come in. And there'll be probably a third one to the introduction of new uses that, you know, we hear from the public, maybe we just miss those from, you know, from a particular use that we just forgot to identify or something, and we'll bring those in. But what we want to do is just kind of break those down in phases and not just kind of come in here with all different angles of we're going to amend this for clarity. We're trying to introduce this. We want to kind of keep those together when we bring those to council.
And one follow-up, Mr. Chair, on a lighter note, I was shared with Mr. Malinowski earlier today, but I was speaking to one of my constituents who is one of the finer seniors of Richland County, and she said, if y'all could just do away with that 0.2 or that 0.5, because she doesn't want a 0.2 house.
Yes,
but thank you, Mr. Price. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. You recognize Ms. Newton.
Mr. Price, you knew it was too easy. Just quickly, as a follow-up to Councilwoman Barron's question, can you just remind us of what is the current timeline that we're on?
Yes. Okay. So on the 1st of April, which is a Friday, staff will have a work session with the Richland County Planning Commission, just to kind of go over the mapping, the issues that have come about from comments from the citizens and also from the meetings, just to kind of go over what we're looking forward to for the 4th of April meeting, which is the actual Planning Commission meeting, where they will actually take a vote and make a recommendation to County Council regarding the Land Development Code. From the 4th of April meeting, it will come to County Council on the 26th of April for the zoning public hearing. Of course, at that meeting, we will bring to you the remapping in addition to the recommendations of the Planning Commission for your consideration. Now, from that point on, it is really up to County Council on the direction that we will take from there.
So a few quick questions. So we've got a work session with the Planning Commission on April 1st. And is that a public work session that citizens can attend?
The citizens can attend. They will not be able to participate because it's just a work session, but it is our intent to also stream that meeting to the public.
And then there's a Planning Commission meeting on April 4th, and you said that they were going to discuss the Land Development Code as well as the remapping recommendations at that time?
Actually, it will be more for the remapping itself.
Okay.
And any recommendations they have. And in some ways, it could go towards the Land Development Code. It may be a suggestion, and just for example, to approve, to accept the mapping for a certain zoning designation, provided maybe a use or two be removed from that particular zoning designation.
Thank you. And so then those items would come to council on April 26th. So would you be submitting those recommendations to council fairly immediately after the Planning Commission meeting for our review, or?
It is our intent to get those out to you almost immediately following the meeting. That's one of the reasons why we help with the work session that we're going to have, so we can kind of get some of our language together. But the intent is to get it to you as soon as we can so that y'all have ample time to review. And if you have any questions, you can pose those to staff.
And so then I think my last question is, looking at that timeline of the work session on the 4th, the Planning Commission, work session on the 1st, Planning Commission meeting on the 4th, and the zoning public hearing on the 26th, at which phase during this process do you anticipate some of those textual amendments that you mentioned coming before either the Planning Commission or council?
We will actually start that immediately following the 26th meeting. Once we get some direction from council on, really your direction regarding the remapping process.
Okay, so then the remapping would be approved in your timeline, and then the textual amendments would come following that.
We're hoping that it will come in simultaneously. And we've also built in, and again, we will provide you with a more in-depth schedule of our meetings, but the intent is to give some time in between the final adoption of the Land Development Code, including the remapping, to allow any text amendments to the land development code text to take place.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Parkman. Recognize Ms. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Many times when something comes to the zoning public hearing, it's the very first day that it's there that we also have the public hearing. Will that be the case with this one on April 26th?
Yes, sir. That would be your scheduled public hearing.
All right, now, based on all the comments that I've seen and heard about, we could be inundated in here on that day. So we may need to make plans to have 2 separate dates for this particular public hearing to accommodate all the individuals that may want to speak.
Yeah, yes, sir. That's why, as I stated previously, we would like to just bring this to County Council on the 26th, and then from there, I think your actions will dictate how we will go forward. So, of course, we can't establish another public hearing for this item, but it would be up to council to do that.
Thank you, Deputy Director Price.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's move to item 5E. It's amending the fireworks ordinance. Myself, I work very closely with the Richland County Sheriff's Department to kind of figure out how we can get some teeth into our ordinances. I do want to mention that, Mr. Wright.
Yes. My office actually, I have a draft. I didn't send it to y'all for a specific reason. Chapter 18 offenses, we have it to be amended to add fireworks and similar explosives. The issue that came up is that there is an Attorney General's opinion that cautions against having criminal penalties for local fireworks ordinances. And so where the motion had in it up to 30 days and $100 fine, we would have to change that to be just a $100 fine and as a civil penalty and not a criminal. The issue is that I think that would probably take it out of the purview of the Sheriff's Department and into either code enforcement or the fire marshal. So the question is that what y'all want to do? Is that the teeth you want? But the problem is there's an Attorney General's opinion that speaks against criminal penalties.
Mr. Recognize, sir.
The fine has to be limited to $100?
No.
Okay.
No. The issue is that it had the 30 days and $100, but the 30 days would be a criminal penalty. So that's the problem.
Aaron, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Attorney Wright, by taking the criminal portion out of it, it altogether removes the Sheriff's Department from this item.
Well, generally the Sheriff's Department wouldn't enforce civil infractions. So that's where the concern. I mean, if the Sheriff's Office would do that, then, but generally they don't.
That's what concerns me as we have discussions about creating this particular ordinance, that the teeth that we need perhaps is not the fire marshal, and it's no disrespect to them, but we've seen, even them having to be taxed extra with enforcing a mass ordinance. And we're talking about the support of this entity to be able to, on the 4th of July, can you imagine sending the fire marshals out throughout Richland County? I don't know I know for me, that's not teeth. That's paper. That's just going through the motion. That's what we have right now. And whereas I don't think that, we want to send someone to jail for, firing fireworks at a godforsaken time, but I do think that we want people to think twice about it. And I don't know, maybe there's somewhere in that guidance and in that opinion that you can find something that's going to give us a little more substance.
Thank you, ma'am. Hey, Mr. Wright.
No, but, and I guess that's the concern that I had, is that by doing that, there is this Attorney General's opinion out there that does caution against specifically fireworks ordinances by local entities having criminal penalties. And that's the question, is that how do we want to move forward if we do take out the criminal penalty?
Mr. Malinowski, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney Wright, thank you for that. That clarifies one of my concerns that I discussed with Chair Pugh just prior to this meeting. But also, what about the possibility, kind of like 3 strikes and you're out, that after a third violation notice, can we now put language in there that would declare that, I guess, person, which is an entity, we'll say, a public nuisance, and bring them in under the public nuisance ordinance like we do some of the different bars and restaurants where problems occur over and over again?
I don't think we can declare a person a public nuisance. We could declare the place, like for example, if it's the same house or the same business where it happens multiple times, we can declare that place a public nuisance, but I don't think we can declare a person.
And maybe from what Ms. Barron said before, that she gets complaints on this, and maybe it's from the same location. So if it happens to be at a location, we could then add that after the third offense, maybe we can go there to try and move something a little more teethy, as she says. Thank you.
So collectively, I would like for us to work diligently to figure this out. Again, I want to reiterate, this is a military town. We deal with a lot of retirees that decided to make this their home. And I get tons of phone calls before holidays, and nobody's against fireworks being fired or celebrating, but it's just that all times of night, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, some people have to go down in their basement. Just the horror stories that I hear, and is very important for us to make sure as public officials that we take care of those that have sacrificed and taken care of us in the past. So if we can move expeditiously to try to figure out what would work so we can get this on the books and move forward, I would greatly appreciate it. Yes, Ms. Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess to that point, I just want to clarify what the very next steps are that need to happen. And it sounds like, Mr. Wright, you're updating a draft ordinance that you'll present to the committee. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
More questions? The motion for item number 6.
Move to adjourn. Second, Newton.
Madam Clerk, can you call for the vote, please?
Pugh,
Yes.
Horatio,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved to adjourn.
All right.